Hello and welcome to the 12th episode of This Week in Mappercraft. This past week was March 15th to March 21st, and we'll be covering the years of 2015, 2016, 2020, and 2021. This week includes Mappercraft's official birthday of the 16th of March 2015. So we'll be going over the start of Mappercraft this week, along with all the other anniversaries. As always, all information here can be found on the Mappercraft wiki, which is linked in the description, along with the server itself. Let's go over the years. In 2015, the server began with Panasia World, founded, hosted, and ran by Monsoon Jr. 2016, the server was running Terran World and Panasia World Revived, both under Monsoon Jr. In 2020, the server was running Solus World 2 under Solus. And in 2021, the server was running VMJ World under Multi. And let's get started. On March 16th, 2015, that fateful day, Monsoon Jr., the founder of Mappercraft, decided to create his Minecraft server. It was partially inspired by another Mapper-created server, Redirect's Minecraft server, which had launched in October of 2014 and closed up in the spring of 2015. Redirect server usually isn't considered Mappercraft. Instead, Monsoon Jr.'s Minecraft server is considered the start of Mappercraft. So this date is the birth of Mappercraft. Monsoon ran it on his own computer, so there were basically no mods or plugins, and the server couldn't handle very many people at once. First world was Panasia, which was a regularly generated Minecraft world, but due to issues with server storage space, I think, it gained a large chunk error at some point during the first week around spawn. Here's the iconic quote. Obviously, as the world opened on the 18th, several nations were formed at the beginning of the world, including Brabantium, Horinia, Colminia, Datrolon, and the Donut Empire. You can see here that apparently Brabantium was the richest, although that was probably written by Batran, the leader of Brabantium. Next, on the 19th, the era of growth began, lasting only a few days, but seeing several nations formed and alliances shifting quickly. Here's the quote there. And finally, for the last event from the very first week of Mappercraft, we have the uniting of Datrolon, ran by Monsoon Jr., and Colminia, ran by Java C. This was an extremely relevant event for the future of the world, as the nation of Datrolon Colminia would represent the main force of opposition to the Central Powers Alliance of Horinia, Donut, and Brabantium. But that is for a later week, and here's the quote for that. Now, we have a single event from March 15th and 16th during Terran World, when, on the 16th, Terran World ended. We talked about this last week, so I'm not going to dwell on it. It was replaced on the 16th by Panasia World Revived, which had been brought back for the server's first birthday. And we have a lot of different things happen in its first week as players attempt to re-establish old alliances and nations from a year ago. First, on the 16th, the first great civil crisis occurred when several different players rushed to find the ruins of Zanzanut and claim them for either Stoneholm or Habrantium. FedEx got there first, claiming the territory for Habrantium. This almost caused a crisis, as Extra and KCAP wanted to settle there, according to this quote. It was resolved when they chose to join Habrantium. Also on the 16th, possibly at the same time, Horinia was raided by unknown players, as seen in the quote here. Batran pinned the blame on Tomad. Following that, on the 17th, the Battle of Maricopa occurred between Habrant and several non-player factions, NPCs. There was some lore here in the quote, but the important thing is that Habrant secured the territory with support from Stoneholm, giving the Central Powers Alliance the victory. Here are four more events from March 17th to the 19th of 2016. First, on the 17th, the early civilization era began, when nations officially became formed or reformed. According to the quote, though, it only lasted 2 days. To close out the early era on the 19th, the Lapanian Civil War occurred between Matt and Cheese over an island sold to Habrant? Stoneholm supported Matt, while Cheese hired FedEx as a mercenary. After TL bribes FedEx to switch sides, Cheese loses and is exiled. According to the quote, he became a nomad. Immediately following this, on the 19th, the early era ended and the middle civilization era began. This one would last a little longer, little over a week, according to the quote here. To open up the new era, the great unification of Stoneholm and Lapenia occurred when the two nations decided to unite their two royal houses into the United Kingdom of Stoneholm and Lapenia. According to the quote here, their military launched a sort of triumphant raid of several mob villages in celebration, which are all seemingly named after 2016 presidential nominees, candidates. So that's pretty funny. And here we get to the final slide for Pangaea World Revived. We have 3 events from March 20th to the 21st of 2016. All of these are actually on the 20th, technically. First, we have the Second Great Civil Crisis when TL was banned. The 2 remaining leaders of the UK, Tomad and Matt, disputed over which one of them should rule in his place. Eventually, though, TL told them that he was still in charge and that they would need to work as a duo, according to the quote here. The banning of TL directly led to the Germano-UK War, when Germany tried to take advantage of the United Kingdom's temporary weakness to demand a bunker near Stoneholm. TL accepted their demands while secretly having Tomad lead an army to the German capital. After TL got unbanned, the war started up in earnest. Nano acted as a spy for the Germans at the opening of the war, but to little effect. Berlin is razed and the German Empire destroyed, according to the quote here. Following the war, the UK annexed Germany, placing Lord Caratemo, aka Scali, as the ruler and becoming known as the United Kingdom of Stoneholm, Lapenia, and Germany. However, their victory was short-lived, as on the same day, the Third Stoneholm Rebellion kicked off, when many members of the United Kingdom leave to form other nations, as they are tired of being ruled by TL as kind of an autocrat. According to the wiki, TL kind of crashed out over this and eventually decided to take a break from the server because of this. Tomad vowed to make TL proud and took the reins of the United Kingdom, as seen in the quote here. And this marks the end of the week for Pangaea Revived. Obviously, in 2016, the server hit its 1-year anniversary. In 2017, the server hit its 2-year anniversary. 2018 was 3 years, and 2019 was 4 years before we got to 2020. And now we have 3 events from March 15th to the 21st of 2020 during Solus World 2. First, on the 15th, Taiwan collapsed after being raided by an international group of ne'er-do-wells. They quit the server because of this and gave their colonies independence. According to the quote, the colonies of England and Celion were considering what to do before eventually deciding to leave the server as well, hollowing out a relatively built-up part of the world in Japan and Europe. Next, on the 16th, the server hit its 5-year anniversary. I don't think anything really big was done for this, but it was a relevant event either way. This was right before I joined the server, so I don't think I was around if any sort of big celebration events did take place. Here's the limited quote, though, for that one. And finally, for the last event from the year, we have the war in New Schwabenland on the 19th, when a faction of very aggressive and sort of German roleplay-oriented players made a nation down in Antarctica and attacked the only other Antarctic nation, Hokma, owned by Dusty Excalibur. Hokma was quickly defeated and destroyed, although after the war it was discovered that most of the members of the nation had hacked clients, and those players were thus banned. The remaining New Schwabians were defeated by an alliance of Zuiderland and Kursk, an interesting combination, who had both guaranteed Hokma's independence, according to the quote here. Really a surprising turn of events there that the two former enemies banded together to defend this sort of small Antarctic nation. But that marks the end of 2020 for this week. And finally, on our last slide, we have 4 events from March 15th to the 21st of 2021 during VMJ World. In addition to these, the 6th birthday of Mappercraft occurred on the 16th of March 2021. But first off, on the 15th, the Malagasy War, which began last week, ended anticlimactically when Shamsky and several other members of Madagascar were banned for toxicity, harassment, and loopholing. The anti-Madagascar coalition claimed victory, and Dajang claimed their former land, allowing players to destroy the builds there if they wanted to. According to the quote, This had many ripple effects on the server. The East African Federation was reestablished, New Segal was formed and vassalized Hawaii, Sicily declared independence from Italy, and the nations of Italy, Nordan, and Valhalla were all conquered and annexed by New Athens. Several days later, possibly related to these ripple effects, on the 18th, the Fortria-Haiwa War occurred, when Fortria declared war and quickly defeated the smaller Haiwa. Although they would attempt to vassalize them, according to the quote, Haiwa disbanded instead, so kind of a short war there. And next, on the 19th, the second Jazz Night, quote-unquote, event occurred when players gathered in the territory of Austria to potentially hear some players perform musical instruments in a voice chat. However, it was cut short when several ne'er-do-wells exploded the stage, disrupting the event. Austria had actually recently been disbanded, making the griefs legal, and theoretically making future jazz nights pretty difficult to host. I think there was a thought that somebody else would make another stage somewhere, but I don't think this ever happened. This can all be seen in the quote here, though. Following that more light event, on the 20th, the Sicilian Rebellion kicked off when the Byzantine Republic declared independence from New Athens with the island of Sicily. The actual rebellion was rather complicated. Ultimately, Byzantine lost, although a large chunk of their territory had declared a second independence as the nation of Pakistan. Additionally, New Athens faced internal issues as well, as a good chunk of their territory declared independence as the city-state of Athens. The two nations remained independent at the conclusion of the war, as seen in the quote here, although Athens and New Athens quickly sort of recombined and Pakistan continued on for a good chunk of time. Ultimately, when the smoke cleared, foreign observers concluded that the main purpose of the war had been for Butternalso, the leader of Sicily, to steal the Athenian beacon while their army was distracted with destroying Sicily. In this context, the war can be seen as a success, although Sicily obviously got completely razed. But that does mark the end of 2021 this week. We don't have any other major events, but the anniversaries of Mappercraft over the years were as follows. In 2022, there was the 7th birthday. In 2023, we had the 8th birthday. In 2024, we had the 9th birthday. And in 2025, last year, we had the 10th birthday. This makes this week our 11th birthday, which is pretty cool. Although the server isn't always active on our anniversary date, it's still a cool and fun thing to kind of celebrate through the years. But this does mark the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and check out the server at the link in the description. As always, if you have any additional information about any of these events, leave a comment down below or go ahead and add it to the Mappercraft wiki yourself. See you next week from March 22nd through to March 28th.